What if I told you that saving money could cost you your relationships, your joy, and even your identity? According to a recent LPOS study, 69% of Canadians are worried they couldn't afford an unexpected $1,000 expense. With inflation climbing and wages crawling, the idea of living frugally feels more necessary than ever. But here's the real question. Is being frugal an answer to your financial freedom, or could it be potentially holding you back? In this video, I'm going to be breaking down how frugality helped me eliminate over $100,000 of debt, but also how it made me feel isolated, stuck, and honestly, a little bit lost. I'll share my full story, the turning point that changed my entire mindset, and 3 practical tips that'll help you find your own kind of sweet spot between saving and living. Let's get into it. Let's start with the basics. What is frugality? What does it even mean? Okay, so here's the definition. It's basically about resisting the pressure to spend unnecessarily. Basically, you're not easily swayed by trends or like temptation. But here's the thing, to everyone else, you're just like cheap. Your friends will call you cheap. Your family will call you cheap. Even baby chicks might look at you sideways and call you a dumbass. Looking back, I was always that frugal kid. I just didn't know that that's what I was. Like when I'd go to a grocery store with my mom or my parents, I'd see a single apple cost like less than an entire bag and think to myself, like, why would I spend more money on more apples that I'm probably gonna end up throwing away? But of course, like being a kid, you don't understand these things. I just kind of went with it, and I still wanted the entire bag just in case I kind of felt like a little peckish. Going. As I got older, I started kind of questioning prices a little bit more, sometimes on purpose, but honestly, most of the time I kind of just spent mindlessly, and like hence I ended up in over $100,000 in debt. Frugal, but broke. It didn't really make any sense. This next part is really where my mind shifted, really. Years ago, I worked in a cheese factory, and not like the fancy kind of cheese. We're talking like cottage cheese. At first, I was just kind of packaging skids. Then I got promoted and moved up to the guy that was mixing the cheese, which means some of you out there might have eaten cheese made by these hands, baby. Now this is kind of the wild part of that, and kind of the reason why I'm telling this story about me making cheese. We'd pour the same vat of 3% cottage cheese into 3 different tubs: the no-name brand, the fancy bougie brand, and the one in between. The exact same product, different label, different price. That moment really just blew my mind. This part of my journey just really started making me question everything, because what other big manufacturing companies are producing the same product and just slapping a different price on it? It really made me, again, think, how much are we overpaying just for packaging? But even then, it still took me years to connect the dots between that realization and my debt. Once I did, though, it was game over. I combined my frugal habits with a laser focus on debt elimination. Every dollar I saved on groceries, on my phone bill, on subscriptions that I didn't need, I funneled all of that into paying off my debt. I lived with less, I cut costs hard, and after 3 solid years of grinding, I was finally debt free. And I'll always remember getting the email confirming that I'd paid off my student loans after 13 years and over $25,000. Here's the email that they sent me. And nothing magnificent, except for at the very bottom it said, thanks. No confetti, no parade, just one anticlimactic thanks. Now, let's talk about the part that no one really talks about. Obviously, there are a lot of YouTubers out there that will talk about frugality. When frugality becomes your entire identity, you really stop living. I was so committed to saving money that I didn't want to spend any of it. even if it meant missing out on moments with my wife, even if it meant saying no to friends, even if it meant slowly isolating myself so that way I didn't have to spend a dime. I would question everything when it came to spending. I would question the gas money just to go meet up with friends. I'd overthink splitting bills evenly. I'd stress over group gifts. And listen, some of you might say, well, if they don't accept you for who you are, then they shouldn't be in your life or they're not your real friends. Listen, I get that. But as you get older, your circle of friends grows from like this to like this. So you really got to fight for like every relationship you got, really. Eventually, I realized that frugality is a tool and not a lifestyle. It's supposed to serve your goals, not take away your joy. That's when I started shifting my mindset. I still saved, but I allowed room for living. If any of this is hitting home for you, then maybe consider dropping a like. And hey, subscribe if you want to join me on my journey to 1,000 subs. Here are the 3 changes that helped me the most. And before I get there, if you're wondering why I'm moving these logs, recently had an ice storm where I live, and a big tree in my backyard fell onto the roof of our house. And that's kind of going back to what we were talking about having an emergency fund ready, because if we didn't have that emergency fund, that would have been debt right there. Again, fortunate enough to kind of plan this ahead years ago. Obviously, I'm not planning for a tree to fall on my house, but planned an emergency. We managed to pay for it quickly and get the job done. And the tree guys were nice enough to just chop it up and leave it as logs for us to burn in the future for like, I don't know, a fire pit or something. But anyway, onto the 3 tips. Tip number 1 is include extravagance in your budget. This part changed everything. When I first started budgeting, there was 0 room for fun. Now I give myself guilt-free money to spend. I enjoy life, whether that's a fancy dinner, a gift, or spontaneous day out. It's all accounted for. Tip number 2 is to automate your spending. Literally just set it and forget it. Like, let your bank move money into a fun account each payday. Why am I carrying this? This is heavy. Trees are a lot heavier than I thought they would be. Anyway, automate your spending on each payday. That way you don't overspend and you don't feel bad for enjoying yourself. You're just using what's already been set aside for you. And tip number 3 is to align your money with your values. Ask yourself, what matters most to me? Time with family, traveling, hosting dinners. Build your budget around experiences and people you actually care about. Because stacking money just to say you have it, that's really not the flex that you think it is. Let me know in the comments, how do you balance frugality with enjoyment? I'd love to learn from your approach. Frugality helped me crush $100,000 in debt, but it also made me feel small, rigid, and joyless until I learned how to balance it with intentional spending. So yeah, money is really a tool. Use it to build a life that you're proud of and excited to live. And I'll see you next week, hopefully with this pile gone.